Well, I'm very excited to be here today. I think, I've never been to Nashville before, and I'm really happy to be up on stage to talk to everyone here. I think, looking at our industry and where the direction of everything is going, I think organizations like this is a key element to making sure that we set the standard for our industry and make it an impactful thing and very meaningful for the customer experience, and making sure that it's predictable, that experience is something that we can be proud of. And there's so many pieces of the value chain and services in the mobile repair industry that there's so many parts and so many partnerships that can be done. And I'm excited to be a part of this. I'm happy to jump in after Jeremy today. Jeremy calls himself a Royals fan, but I know the last time I saw him, we were at a Giants game, and I think he's secretly a Giants fan. And we all know the Giants save their championships for even seasons, so we're hoping 2016 could be a good year for us. But today I'm really excited to jump on stage. I also want to say thank you to Michelle for setting this up. I think it's awesome. There's a lot of familiar faces in the crowd. There's a lot of new faces in the crowd. I hope there becomes more familiar faces after this. I want to share our story about iCracked, kind of about how it started from very humble beginnings and how we've tried to build a business throughout the years. It's very interesting to see these brands up on stage and around this room and how they've grown throughout the years as well. And I think it's really just the beginning. A lot of these brands, and I know we started on Craigslist, getting our customers from alternative places and trying to build a brand and a customer experience you could be proud of. And so I want to jump into what iCracked is at its core, where we're going, but more importantly, how we started and how brick by brick started to layer on what we believe is an incredible customer experience. And that goes across all verticals. So as we talk about mobile repair, I think this is a massive industry, and we'll touch base on how big it is exactly today. But iCracked's mission really is to build a global technical network that can conveniently solve our customers' problems anytime, anywhere. And I think that that's the true value of what we all do. It's not that we can fix a smartphone when they break. It's that we have the technical minds to be able to see a market and address a market with a customer experience that works. And as this market evolves, and we've seen it grow immensely throughout the years, and it's going to continue to grow, but just remember the value is not in the market you're in, but the technical minds you have to be able to attack new markets. And we're focused on the customer experience side and building a brand that people can trust. And that goes beyond smartphones, that goes beyond any smart devices, as we see our devices becoming the remote control to the doors of the world, to our doorbells, to thermostats, to what have you. These are all smart things. These are all things that require a technical mind, advanced install, advanced repairs, that all the minds here are going to be able to attack better and adapt to markets as they grow. So let's jump into this. I kind of wanted to give a quick overview of iCracked and where it started. And then basically I'll tell a few stories. I threw a couple slides together. I'd love to make this part of a Q&A as much as possible, but we can jump into some just the early beginnings of iCracked. So my co-founder in the green shirt, AJ, as some of you might know him, he's the better looking and more charming one of the group. And AJ was actually in college at the time in 2010 and got one of the first iPhones and was very good at breaking that $700 device and didn't have the pockets to pay Apple $200 every time this thing broke, and finally decided to take the plunge, buy parts, and fix this thing in his house. And it took him a couple hours, and he got the screen back on. He's always had a technical mind. He's been intellectually curious about taking things apart and putting them back together, seeing how they work. A lot of like what we are in this room today. So it really started with that intellectual curiosity, and then realized that college campuses were a hotbed for people breaking their phones on the weekends and not being able to pay Apple $200, but needing a more fast, convenient service than that. So it started really on one campus. And the way I had found out about it, my best friend in college was his best friend, or my best friend in high school was his best friend in college. And so I went to UC Santa Barbara. AJ was at Cal Poly. It was about 90 minutes up the road. So we'd go visit each other, and I was running a textbook exchange platform at the time. My business was very cyclical. It happened, people were buying and selling books 3 times a year. When we started to see this uptick in smartphones and how often they were breaking and how big of a pain point we could address, and where we can be working every single day to solve this problem. And so, interestingly enough, my sister, who was at Cal Poly, saw one of his flyers on campus, and she had broken her phone. She is a repeat offender. She's on our Advantage program, and I need to kick her off because she's costing us way too much money. But so she had broken her phone, saw a flyer on campus, and called the number. And AJ answers and says, "Yeah, come over to my house." And AJ was fixing devices, just like probably most of us in this room at one point, just out of this house. And was able to have people, he's close enough to campus where people would swing by on their bikes before they went to class. He'd fix it and pick it up, after class on their way home. And she was actually his first customer. And she walked in the room and she's like, "Wait, I've been here before." And AJ's like, "Really, really, oh, how's that?" And he's like, "Are you Michael's roommate?" And Michael was my best friend in high school, and he's like, "Yeah, Michael's my best friend." And he's like, "Oh, that's my brother's best friend." And that's really how we started to connect on iCracked. We're running 2 businesses. And AJ's business was starting to take off on this college campus, and we saw that, hey, there's a real opportunity to scale this. So we jumped in this together. Like most of us, we scraped as much money as we could together for parts, went on Alibaba, started trying to source suppliers as much as possible. And as you know, a lot of times that could be the wild, wild west. It still is, and we go to Shenzhen quite often. In fact, AJ's in Shenzhen right now, so he fortunately couldn't join us today. But we knew that part quality and training was going to be one of the key things in order for us to be able to scale the brand. And so we really focused on that early on. And I remember, as we started with the first logo and everything with iCracked, it was a big cracked screen. A lot of different colors, a lot of stuff going on that didn't really make much sense or a unified brand, but we went with it and we said, we're going to build this campus by campus and scale this nationwide. And I remember in the first 30 days it was, okay, let's spin up a website, let's get all the parts we need and build these businesses in a box. And what we called were startup kits. And it was basically everything you needed to get started doing exactly what AJ did on his campus, and taught all the business development tools that he was kind of doing, whether it was flyering on campus, and then talking with your local carriers, trying to help them solve their customers' problems, because there's a lot of them that do not have solutions today, and were that support for those carriers. So did the classic business development stuff, help them make Craigslist listings, and show them how to build their own demand. Today, we have over 5,000 of those iTechs. We span over 94% of the US population. We have an iTech within 10 minutes. We opened an office in London in 2014, and then also in Germany in 2015, and then we just structured our first deal with a Japanese partner in Japan to have 500 locations in the next 18 months where iCracked will be servicing those markets. So we're very happy with how it's scaled. But it's really the step-by-step to really get there is the interesting part. As most of you did, we we didn't have much money getting started, and so we had to scrape things together. I remember we won a investor competition. We won $5,000, and we were finally able to go from iCracked.it to iCracked.com. That was huge for us. And yeah, we told the guy, it was a cyber squatter, of course, and we ended up saying we were college students, which was true, and we were doing a project, and we wanted to have this domain name for the project, and he sold it to us for like $4,995. Perfect. So we had $5 in the bank. So what did we do? We ended up getting credit cards, of course, and I'm still surprised to this day that credit card companies will give college students the amount of credit that they give them. And this probably wasn't legal at the time. I won't consult my general counsel on this, but we decided to take those cards and charge it on our website to go and buy parts. And so, because as you know, all the Chinese suppliers don't take credit cards, they want Western Union and send the cash over. So we did that, and we were basically running this business out of our, at the time it was in the garage, and AJ and I were living in Sunnyvale he was in a pink basement. It was a children's playroom, and I was in a storage unit that was basically doubled as a room, but it worked just fine. And we were building the business out of there, and we did that for a number of years. Before, and we had about 100 iTechs at the time. We were trying to figure out how to support our technicians who have these incredible technical minds that want to have a unified brand and really build a predictable experience across the US and have a global brand. And so we've been really focused on that. And what you'll see is, we're focusing a lot on the software support of that. We're focused on the customer experience, making it as simple as possible for customers to be able to put in a request and schedule an appointment with a technician, and make that predictable across all geographies. And really make it so we can send more demand to our customer or to our technicians, and build those partnerships. And to be able to do that, I'll say right now that we know what we're good at. We also know where we're not going to be best at. And I see a lot of why we're coming here today is to meet a lot of the individuals here, and see how we can work together. We know we want to focus on building out the technical know-how and the distributed technical workforce to take care of that last mile logistics of servicing the customer, and also the software to be able to do that. But there's a lot of parts of our business where we want strong partnerships and be able to grow together. And I think that's why this expo is amazing for that, and really excited to kind of talk to you guys about it. As you guys know, this is a massive industry. It went from this cottage industry, like I said, where most of our competitors were on Craigslist. We've seen a lot of individuals and companies come and go throughout the years. There were some shakeups back when color conversions were big. I don't know if anyone here got in trouble with the Apple FBI and having them raid any warehouses, but that used to happen. And really, and that's why I think that this is huge that we're all here together, because we need to make an industry standard so we can have this official solution, really be able to grow this industry outside of this any sort of gray area, because it's a massive industry now. You have over 3 billion devices on this planet. Conservatively, 12.5% of them are going to break in the first year of ownership, and the average cost of the repair today that we have is $127. So you have a $50+ billion industry here, and this is just the remote control of our world. And I think we're going to see a splintering of all these smart devices and sensors and everything that's going to take the technical minds to service these. Because believe it or not, when people have more technology, their lives don't get easier. Their lives get more complex. And they don't want, and I believe that there's an advanced level of service and install for a lot of these devices that people just want to work, right? And they want a simple interface, but to set that up and make it simple requires a technical mind. And so this is really just the beginning of our industry. I wanted to touch base just a little bit on our technical workforce. We've been scaling this very quickly. For the longest time, we've had a supply problem, and we're trying to meet our own demand. So went from our technical workforce, like giving them the tools on how to build their own business, to how do we send as many leads to our technicians as possible? How do we build that demand for them? And we've been really focused on not just the demand. The demand side has been the hard part to keep up with. The supply side and having the technicians in places where we need them and being able to offer that predictable service has been the challenge for the last 6 years. We've been able to really crack the code on finding those individuals. We get 12,000 applications a month requesting to become an iTech. And we go ahead and see, and we try and match our demand with where we need technicians. So we'll go ahead and look on a map and see exactly where clusters of requests are coming from, and be able to identify the types of people that we believe will be a great interface for our brand with that customer. So a lot of what we look for, of course, are qualitative characteristics. We like people that have the curiosity, ethics, and drive. People who are intellectually curious about these devices, and they don't have to ever have fixed a phone before. In fact, we want to be able to teach that, and we want to be able to teach that correctly. So we put that on our onus to be able to do that and be able to build a system and certification to get them to the point to be able to service these devices. But the qualitative things is very difficult to teach. Jeremy touched base on that. When you're interfacing with your customers, like being able to give them that warm experience is what's going to get them coming back. It's what's going to get them telling their customer, telling their friends about your service. And so that's what we really focus on when we're vetting potential iTechs. And so we'll take about 6% of those applicants and bring them into training. On average, it takes 23 days for a new technician to go into being fully certified and turning on the app so they can receive requests from customers, and then also give them all the tools to build their own business as well. So it happens both virtually. We're trying to build the standard on training to be able to make this a very scalable solution. The only reason we're able to scale the way we have is because we're focused so hard or so well on the training and building out documentation for parts. A big thing I believe that we did right in the beginning was take the risk of making sure that we offered a lifetime warranty on every single repair that we did. I think that that's a huge thing, and it really required us to focus on the quality of parts that we're putting on our customers' devices, and has helped with the brand and the experience. And I think a lot of individuals in this room today, especially our partners on the supply side, has really helped us create that, which is awesome. And so yeah, that's a little bit about our technical network. This is a map of where our technicians are today. So we make up over 93% of the US population. And basically, when we quantify that, there's a technician within 10 minutes of 94% of the requests that we're getting online. And of course, we now have a presence in the UK and Germany as well. And we really want to build out this technical workforce and be able to allow technicians the platform to be able to service customers predictably and affordably. So I wanted to kind of go over our core competency. Like I said, we're not going to be the best in the world at everything. There's certain things that we want to be really good at, and then other things where we know that there's other people that are better than us at it, and we want to partner with them. So what we're really focused on is optimizing the supply and demand side of this market. It's a $54 billion market. We are not touching, we're touching a very small percentage of this market today. I think there's so much upside in this, and it's really trying to match that supply and demand. So on the supply side, we're building scheduling interfaces for customers to be able to go on our site and have that Apple Genius bar-like experience by just telling us exactly what device they have and where they want their device repaired. And then we have to do our job to aggregate all the available technicians that are certified to have the inventory, are willing to go to that location and have their suggested times displayed. And what I think is really interesting, going back to when we started, the idea of on-site started. I know it's a much probably. I mean, how many people in this room are doing on-site repairs today? Okay, like 8-10%. So I mean, really, we started on site because we couldn't afford to open a retail store, and it was a differentiator for us to. AJ was fixing on his in his kitchen counter, and although that worked well, as soon as competition started to come up, we decided that, hey, we're going to take it to the next level and actually drive to the customer and take care of them on site. It was a way for us to say, hey, we're different, and this is how we're going to do it. And it's worked well. There's pros and cons to it. I think customers want choice. I think retail is a very big part of that equation, that a big part of the market wants a retail store that they know is going to be there, today, tomorrow, what have you, where they can go back to it. And then there's a certain percentage of the market that wants on-site. So we're trying to solve that on-site problem. And so the way we want to do that is with our matching algorithms. We're testing these today, and I want to make it so a technician that wants to work full-time or part-time, it doesn't matter how often they want to be on platform or not, but they can do that very efficiently and receive repairs very quickly with just giving us a number of information through their apps. So we obviously need to know that they're certified to do these repairs, and they need to be able to pass our tests to be able to be on the platform. We need to know that they have inventory on hand, that they're able to do those repairs that they said they can do, because they have the hardware to. When they're available, like I said, it doesn't matter how available you want to be. You can do it one day a week, in the afternoons, but we need to have that information so we can match that with the customers as quickly as possible, and then how far you're willing to travel. Those are the main qualifications to be on the platform, and allows us to do our jobs and making it a seamless experience for the customer. Because everyone, I think, getting in this room with everyone, we want to make it a predictable experience. We want to set the standard for quality of parts. We need to make sure that regardless of wherever a customer goes, that we can standardize that experience and really bring this whole industry up. Because like I said, we're touching a fraction of what this market actually is. So let's see. So thinking about the industry and where it's going, 2015 was obviously a very interesting time. We went from every year seeing, the new iPhone or new Galaxy series come out, and the price was very, very high for these devices, and then they gradually came down and baselined. Right? And we've seen that for about 5 years, and 2015 was the first time that started to change. And I think that's why organizations like this, we need to be smart enough and nimble enough to be able to address those in the future. And I think that was just a very key partner or key thing to understand, to know your refurbishers, to know the supply chain, to know how you can mitigate those risks and really build that partnership and on the supply chain and experience side to be able to weather those experiences. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities going forward. The idea is, we want to try and build a unified brand and message around the repair industry, and go after new opportunities that weren't there before. We want to start to build better and stronger relationships with the carriers. I think there's a huge opportunity on the carrier side where we're solving their problems in a lot of ways. If they don't have insurance, we have so many customers that when they break their phone, they go back to where they bought it. And they go, hey, what can I do? I broke my phone, I bought this phone from you. And they don't have a solution. And I think if we do our jobs right as an industry, we're going to be that solution. What we do is not easy, and we need to remember that. And we need to be able to suggest how that world should work. We need to be great partners to the mobile world and being able to help offer services around their customers' problems. And we need to do it in a predictable way and a customer experience that's better than anyone else. So I look at that as a huge opportunity. OEMs, I think, we're a part of an organization called repair.org that we just recently joined, and there's a number of individuals in this room that are part of that as well. We really want to see how we can go from, what we call the wild, wild west of trying to source parts and seeing, having to work with a bunch of different manufacturers, whether they're, and how official they are, what quality you're actually getting, being able to spec those out. And we've had to build this ourselves and really figure out how to make sure we're matching the quality that we need. But the OEMs, I think there's a big opportunity that although some OEMs are offering their parts and building that supply chain, if we do our jobs right, if we build this standard of how the experience should be, and we can do it better than an OEM can, then I believe that we can get access to the supply chain and source of parts that we need to make it even more predictable. But we have to do our jobs on the customer experience side, and then start to interface with these OEMs to say, look, your problems are happening because the supply chain isn't predictable, but that's, it's kind of the chicken or the egg. We can't actually build a predictable supply chain if you're not giving us access to it. So I think that that's a big piece, but I look at that as the onus comes back to us. We need to make sure that brand and experience is something that the OEMs want to put their brand with, and that's very important. Buying groups, I think there's a lot of opportunities there. I think, as we do want to start to set this standard, we do want to start interfacing with carriers, with the OEMs, and explain to them what we're doing, and being very open and transparent about that. And so we can start to build this sort of buying power on the supply chain side and build that predictability. That's what we're getting at. And then the trade associations. So things like this, we want to keep coming to these. I want to keep meeting with everyone here. I'm very happy Michelle set this up. And I think that the people who will go the extra mile, that will come to these things and start to learn, and I'm here to learn from every single one of you here on how we can make this a more predictable experience. I think the better off this industry will be. I want to move this industry from the Craigslist gray area, which it was before, and we're making a lot of strides there, so we can build this industry standard. And so I'm just very happy to be here, and that's basically all the slides I have today. But I can answer any questions or anything, but other than that, we'll be here till Wednesday. Any questions? Yeah.
Talk about part quality and the efforts to improve that quality. When do you think that conversation about part quality will go beyond just trying to find the best part, but to that point where we're trying to find an ethically sourced part, a part that we're getting from a place that we know that the people making the parts are treated fairly and given a fair working wage? Do you think that that's part of that quality conversation with sourcing parts?
I think it needs to be. I think that especially starts on the way we use the screens that are broken, actually. I think that on the recycling side, how we are taking and reusing those devices and those screens with the original LCDs and being able to remanufacture those is a big piece of that. And where that happens is very important. And I think the reuse of these devices is one of the key elements to that. How we can stay competitive, how we can work with the OEMs and how they're actually have their standards of manufacturing these parts is one of those elements. And I think we need to, while we question ourselves and do what we can on our end, we need to vocalize that to how they're doing their devices as well. Yep. Yeah, so basically every technician has what we call the iTech app. And how we interface with the customer is all their scheduled repairs will go into this app. Customers receive notifications saying, okay, you're scheduled, there's the time and place. When the technician's en route, he'll go ahead and hit a button and you'll see transparency on when his estimated arrival is. So they get all this information. We're also receiving the data. We get to see if he arrived on time. We get to see the before and after pictures of the repair. We see how long it took. We see the interactions with customers through their phone or the app, through text and communication there. And then we also ask after that, we stitch all that information up for the lifetime warranty and give that to the customer. And at that point, we send a notification that says, hey, please rate your repair. And so we ask every customer the ratings on how their experience was. And we're very happy with the ratings today. We actually have over 50% of our customers responding back to that, which I think is actually relatively high. And we just try and make it as easy as possible for the customer to send us feedback. Any other ones? Yep.
So, Anthony, in addition to the training,
Yep.
that you're providing, are you giving your techs any software tools, diagnostic tools, anything proprietary that they use in addition to just some basic physical?
They do, in the app, they do have some checklists of doing diagnostics manually. We don't have any software today that will go through that diagnostics. We've worked on some R&D around creating hardware for that. But like I said, we want to, and on our side of this whole equation of smartphone repair, we want to be the seamless scheduling customer interface, the technical workforce that is predictable and can be transparent there. And I think that there's a lot of people in this room that want to help build additional services and tools that we want to partner with. Yep.
Going along with that, what about your thoughts on digital right to repair and this legislative push we have across the nation, as far as digital diagnostic tools?
The digital right to repair. So are you talking about the hardware side, or is this the software side of that?
Well, several states now are pushing legislation which would require manufacturers to make these tools available. Manufacturers such as Apple,
Right.
their diagnostic tools are in-house and closed, but it shuts out the repair industry from being able to access these devices and have diagnostic tools that are disposable. And I know iCracked is one of the leaders in this movement.
Yeah, so we're trying to have those conversations with the OEMs today. I think those conversations are just starting in reality of everything. I think it's going to take time. I think that we're not the first industry to have to deal with this. You know, the auto industry had to deal with this for a long time before they were able to get access to these tools. So luckily we don't have to reinvent the wheel on this. I think it's just going to matter of taking the time to work with legislation and to build a unified message at conferences like these. We don't have the perfect answer on how we build that playbook, but we need to get into a room and figure that out. And I think that hopefully this we can help start to solve that today and in the coming months as well. Yeah?
Just to add to that, when you're dealing with Apple and you're dealing, mine was iCracked as well. When you're dealing with Apple and you're dealing with Samsung and you're dealing with them as 1,000 little guys, you are not going to have a voice. So one of the things Shell has done by putting this together is starting to unify the voice. And until we unify our voice about access and about capability and about the fact that we are going to be treating these devices with care, and more importantly, the information inside the devices with care, we're not going to be able to have a powerful voice in all of these applications.
That's exactly right.
When we shared on the slide about the importance of these trade groups, it's about having that voice.
Exactly. Yep.
Anthony, can we circle over at with your folks being mobile rather than being in a storefront environment,
How do you address the opportunity for accessories, add-ons, things that happen in a traditional storefront
Yeah.
that you might be difficult on the road?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think selling additional services for us probably isn't as natural as say if you had a retail store. So we've had to figure out what is the best way to do that. There's a number of ways that we're trying to solve that. I don't think we've cracked the code on additional accessories or offerings. What we do offer today is, and what's nice about doing it on site is we'll go, to someone's home, and oftentimes they'll have phones sitting and collecting dust in their sock drawer. So that's been an additional service that we've been able to do. So trade-in's been a very good complement. We've also added what we call iCracked Advantage. So when you do a repair with iCracked, we offer a 30-day free trial to our Advantage program, which is a warranty program. It's basically Apple Care, but the Genius comes to you, and the deductible is only $25. So we're trying to see that, hey, is this the right time? Like, the customer just experienced the pain point. The worst part about breaking your device should be that, just breaking your device. And the experience after that should be pretty pleasant. So if we can say, hey, we've just delighted you, or like we just solved your problem and it was a delightful experience, and here's a way it can be cheaper. Those are the things that we're kind of looking at. Accessories, we have, like I said, we haven't cracked the code on. We need to figure out if it's a drop ship model where you have some samples of it. Maybe we're looking at custom casing where people are able to customize their cases and have software that does that very simply and drop ship to them. But it's a really good question that we're trying to figure out and we don't have the answer to yet. Yep.
So 5,000 techs you have right now, what's your maturation there? You scratch the surface, do you have a target?
Yeah, so the way we look at it is, so we have 5,000 technicians. There's a bunch of part-time and full-time technicians in that. About a little over 15% are full-time. The other are made up of part-time technicians. So that could be someone that wants to do a few repairs a week and just to augment their income. That maybe they're an IT professional that wants to do this on the side in their afternoons. And it's our job, and we're completely fine either way. We need to make sure we have the coverage that takes care of the customer and create a same-day repair solution. So we have to look at that all the time, and with the new software that we're coming out with, we're getting better and better at that. So I don't know if we have a correct answer of how many technicians we need today, but we're preparing for new channels and partnerships that will be ready to service millions of devices and be able to meet that demand with the software that we're building. But so yeah, that's the big piece is, look, not everyone wants to do smartphone repair part or full time. How can we make it just as easy as possible to be on platform and start receiving customers? Yep.
You guys, this is kind of an odd question, but I just want to get your thoughts on it. Have you guys ever discussed doing this as mail order? In other words, you brought text to the people, but in a situation where you don't have nationwide coverage,
Yep.
You discussed the feasibility of it.
Yeah, so we offer a mail-in service today, and a lot of that's being used for if a technician has an advanced issue that they need support on, we'll be able to do that in-house. So you're talking about level 3 logic board repairs and such. That's a water damage sort of issues. We'll see that in our mail-in service. And the way when we didn't have coverage for on-demand, we used to use a number of services outside of just doing on-site repair. So we have the on-site repair, but at one point it only made up 50% of the U.S. And so we offered a do-it-yourself kit that they can purchase and repair their own device, or a mail-in service. The mail-in service, however, is in this day and age where the devices are literally the remote control of your life. You can't be away from them for more than a week, and to offer a mail-in service quick enough to be able to address what the market needs is very difficult. And we've seen a lot of industries try and do that. I just don't think it works in mobile repair. Yep. Good question. So a lot of our traffic comes from our website today. We do a number of things to try and build that demand. We're focused on getting as much press as possible, getting exposure out into the market. We also have our iTechs that will do that themselves. We offer smart cars to all of our technicians. They can go ahead and lease these from us. They're all iCracked wrapped. It's basically a little mini mobile billboard that they can go ahead and start to build demand that way. We try and set up relationships through channels that make sense, like carriers and such. Just unofficial relationships. The iTech goes in, will go and say, hey, I'm just down the road. I know your customers are going to have this issue. I'm happy to be that resource for you. And a number of ways to do that, but that's primarily where we're getting most of our requests from, is either repeat customers, word of mouth, referral systems, and organic traffic. We don't pay too much for any of the leads today. Yep.
We all see the price like less
Yeah.
from operators. How do you guys manage to pretty much the stay afloat and just keep up the margin you're supposed to do?
It's very difficult. It obviously wasn't easy, I don't think, for anybody, and we weren't immune to that either. I think the biggest thing that we learned from that is that you need to have a very strong supply chain. We need and not compromise on the supply chain, but have the right relationships in order. Also, and that relationship has to do with on the front end of sourcing the parts, but then also the back end of refurbishing the parts, and being able to do that efficiently. Then when you have a close supply chain, you can have more of an opportunity to not be as susceptible to these market fluctuations. But
Apple charges $99 for iPhone 6 replacement. $129 for iPhone 6 Plus.
Yep.
And we compete with such low prices on repairs.
Yep.
Compared to Apple.
It's very difficult. I mean, for us, the way we're trying to do it is through a differentiated experience. We know that we'll never be the cheapest service out there, and a lot of people aren't happy with the Apple Genius Bar experience. I did a test with the Apple Genius Bars in San Francisco in the Bay Area. I sourced, I think they have like 7 stores there, and on average, it took over 5.5 days for the next Apple Genius Bar appointment. So they have a huge bandwidth issue. If you think about it, they have 450 stores, like 453 stores around the world with north of 1 billion devices where 20% of them are going to break every year. So it's not that we're competing. I think we're solving their customers' problems, and I think that they have a bandwidth issue that they're unable to actually address. So I think there's a market for everyone. Yep.
Just want to mirror how important the OEM relationship is, and this type of organization and what we're doing. I mean, I think that's just critical.
Yeah.
That relationship is going to help us as an industry, whether we're mobile techs or we're brick and mortar, to be able to show a unified force to say that, hey, OEM, we can help solve that problem for you.
Right.
We want to be the arm that can help fulfill your manufacturer warranties in a way that is sustainable and transparent to the degree that they need in order to entrust that business to us. But that's super critical, and we've had conversations as well on the repair queue side. We represent several thousand doors, in the U.S. and around the world, and we hear the same exact thing.
Yep.
And it's only going to be through some unification and lines of transparency that we're going to continue to receive more respect from those manufacturers. But I think that's a part of our lifeline. I mean, absolutely it is. But it's certainly a part of our future that I think we have more ground to cover. And hopefully this is a great first step.
Yeah, the next 2 days we really need to figure out what our voice is, because there's a lot of ways that we can aggregate this message together and figure out a way to really display that to the carriers, the OEMs, and everyone. So yeah, we need to help solve their customer problems and do it in the right way. Yep.
Extremely familiar with iCracked and the whole model. Pretty involved for a couple of years.
You're at Penn State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, after Austin Nixon?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, awesome.
So I'll be talking next after lunch, but hybrid model between having a storefront and being mobile. Because I've seen in Austin, Southern California, trucks kind of park at corners and move throughout the day to hotspots of the city or the area.
Yep. Yeah. I'm a firm believer in giving the customer choice. I think that there's a convenience element to on-site repair that you don't have wherein I have to head to a store for an hour. But I also know that 91% of commerce happens in retail. It's what people are familiar with. It's what they know. And so I think it's a very good complement to each other. I think that probably 75% of customers will still choose retail versus on-site. So I don't think it's a silver bullet by any means. But I think that, yeah, if you're able to do that capability and have someone go on-site, there is a market for it. But I think retail is still the much bigger piece. We started on-site literally because we wanted to build something lean and didn't have the money to do retail stores. And it's just interesting to see where it moved. And so for us, we've never had that capability or offering. And I think we're going to continue to focus on this on-site experience, but we're not going to address the whole market with on-site, right? We're just going to address a portion of the market and keep building that. But yeah, I do think it's a great value-added services, especially for if you're dealing with schools, businesses, what have you. They don't have time or the hundreds of devices that are breaking a year to be able to come in and do that. Yep.
How do you react when you send like a tech out there and we're unable to fix, for example, an iPhone? Crack screen, replace it with mouse, why is it still not working? Like, how do you react?
There's times where that happens. What we try and do is do our due diligence up front and make sure that all the diagnostics is checked off and signed off before we ever open the device. So we're checking every single sensor that they have, the touchscreen display, Wi-Fi, volume buttons. I'm sure everyone does their own diagnostics here, right? So you make sure that there's no hiccups, before you open this device and all of a sudden it's your responsibility. And you hope that you've done your training up front to make sure that once you're inside that there's no big question marks that you haven't been able to troubleshoot before and take care of. When that does happen for whatever reason, say you have one of the you have your nylon spudger and you knock off one of the components on the logic board or what have you, you try and solve it as quickly as possible, even though it may not be financially feasible to do it. So we try to send replacement devices as quickly as possible when that happens. It doesn't happen often, so it's not gonna kill a margin on that, and it's the cost of doing business, right? But the cost of the customer having a sour experience we found is more expensive, at least at this time, building a brand. And I think forever will be that we're able to eat those costs to make sure that they get the device working again. And then we just try and do our job to get that device back and fix it in-house and then try and use it throughout our supply chain, for sure. Cool, well I think probably, I don't know what time it is, but I'm sure everyone's getting pretty hungry. But yeah, I can answer one or two more questions if you have any. Yep. For the technicians, so yeah, right now we have a fulfillment center in Redwood Shores. It's nestled right on the West Coast when most of our business is either Central or East Coast. So we have to work on our own inventory, and then all the iTechs hold their own inventory on site, right? To offer same-day repairs, they have their own set of micro inventory. It's anywhere from our iTechs will have $3,000 to $10,000 of inventory at any given time. They order directly from us. We give them tools to be able to manage that manually, but we haven't built advanced tools or ERP systems that know exactly how many devices they have. Because we expect, it's our job to, basically the way we set it up is, look, we trust you to tell us what inventory you have. And we need to make checks and balances in those instances to learn from that in the future. So iTechs can manage their own inventory. We need to know what that inventory is to be able to schedule on their behalf and do the sale for them. So they get to do what they're very good at, which is servicing and making money doing that. But we're building algorithms to understand the predictability of that inventory levels. So we're concerned with how often a technician has an RMA issue. Is that higher than another technician? And we start to track that. Are technicians coming on? Are they arriving to the customer on time? How long are they taking to do that repair? Did they have to cancel a repair because they actually didn't have the part? All that stuff is being built into the system to know and get smarter with how we can embrace the behaviors of our best technicians to keep on allowing them to do better, and also identify with new technicians to say, hey, this is how you get more business. These are the qualifications, and you'll see that your ranking will go even higher from there. So it's a matter of just building a great customer experience and being transparent enough with what qualitative and quantitative metrics we're looking at to be able to connect the customer and the technician.
Follow-ups.
Yeah.
What's your effective ratio?
RMAs and stuff. I mean, the numbers, so it's changed a lot. It's drastically dropped in the last 6 months, probably because David Merenbach, our CFO, is here, and he's been very focused operationally on helping us with that. But it's sub 5% now, and it's getting even lower every day, which is awesome.
One more for you. Are you guys eating the shrink, or your guys are buying the inventory out of their pocket?
So the iTechs will buy all their parts. If they have an issue on the on one of the parts, so basically we've done a lot of diligence on the parts that we're purchasing. Every part that we have has a QR code on it, and at any time an iTech could scan that QR code and it pulls up a video of that part being tested on I think it's about 15 different things that they're looking at. So they can go ahead and see that part before they installed it and see it working. So that's very important for us to have that type of transparency for the technician, for iCracked, and everything. At the end of the day, what we do is, we want to protect the brand, and we're going to do what it takes for the customer to be satisfied. And so on the lifetime warranty of those parts, if we see that it's not an issue from the technician, we're gonna eat that shrink, and then work with our part suppliers or vendors to see where that malfunction happened. But now we have some new tools for checks and balances that help. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, in a partnership, let's build a transparent system. Let's be able to identify. You don't want to play he say she say type of experiences, and we just want to make it, hey, this is very clear how this works, and we all kind of know where that line is, and just make that easier for everybody. Yep.
Are iTechs required to buy their parts from you?
So the answer is yes. We send all of them. If we're going to send leads to you free of charge and send customers that we actually pay for certain instances and are building demand for, the answer is yes. We do allow iTechs to build their own brands if they want to. So we don't say, if you're iCracked, you have to be all iCracked, right? But we do not, the business model doesn't work if we're paying for leads and sending it to someone that doesn't buy parts. Yep.
Last question for me, I promise.
No problem.
So you're buying parts from China or Japan, and you mark the parts up, and you determine the price that the repair should be done?
It's changed a lot. I think, so yes, we are doing, basically the way the business model works is we wanted to make it very lean for the technicians. Basically, they sign up to be a part of the network, and we'll give them the kit to get started, which includes all the software, what they need to start with inventory and tools and everything, and allow them to market themselves and then start sending leads to them, right? The way we bake in all that cost, rather than having this franchise or licensing recurring revenue to be a part of the network, we just decided to make it simple and just do a markup of the part. And so that's how we've done it to date, and we're trying to make it predictable for the customer in the future. So technicians, what's interesting for a long time in our business, the price was determined by which technician answered the phone, and that's very unpredictable for the customer. But we need to give technicians latitude because they're going on site. It could be, let's say in certain instances we're like, I got to drive 30 miles, I got to charge additional for that. So we've given them the latitude there to be able to do that. And I think now as we're building out the network and that's becoming more predictable on that end, we want to help build a very healthy profit, but more of a standardized price across these devices, the way customers would expect an experience to be. Yep.
You had just mentioned that you allow the iTechs to build their own brands.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that? How is it that you allow that?
So there's plenty of times where iTechs have their own brand and they're licensed affiliates with iCracked. There's a decent portion of our network that have stores that operate under a different brand because we've never offered a retail solution for them to say, hey, if you wanted to brand this iCracked, go ahead and do that. So they've had to do it on their own and build their own brands because they wanted to have a store, right? We don't market on retail store repairs. We offer only on-site repairs, and so they have their own business that does the retail side, and then we can help support them on the on-site side as well. So those are instances where it's oftentimes the brand is tied to a retail store, not tied to the on-site repair side. But I mean, I think, like I said, I think retail is a key element to this whole industry. So we're totally open with people having their own brands. I think it's our job to unify the brands and make it so if they want to make have an iCracked branded store, it's not something that we can support and offer that, but we want that retail side to be their business, and we help send leads to them. Yep.
What is who sets the price of iCracked to iTech, and what is their margins?
Who sets the price? So typically the iTech had set price on the repairs, and iTechs, and if you want to, the best person you would want to talk to is our expansion team that can kind of go through all the margins and everything and what you can expect to make. But the iTechs set the price. We can also, we're building the system to make it more standardized. So, because we're concerned mostly about the customers having a predictable experience and the iTech being compensated very well for their time. And it's about finding a balance between that. We don't want customers to ever feel like they've been price gouged or that they've had, where they talked to one guy and it was $30 less, and it creates this really untrustworthy experience. So it's our job to build really good software to solve that. So you're gonna see a lot of changes there, but it's just gonna be more transparency across the board, really. David?
What's our full-time iTech make a year?
Full-time iTech, so I wish we had the slide. Our full-time iTechs make up, the financial officer wants to know how much they make. So the full-time iTech, 5% of our technicians will take home over $93,000 every year. The other are made up over $65,000 a year, and that's just on repairs. That doesn't include trade-in or them selling additional services like sell helmet or things like that. So if they learn how to crack the code on that, and we're always trying to learn from the experiences our iTechs are having. We were iTechs ourselves, and so we're very deep in what that customer experience is like. But we're trying to build more offerings and service for the technicians to make more money, and make it and open new channels that we wouldn't have if we were just one store, two stores, or and have that economies of scale that if we had one unified brand with 5,000 people, what we can actually unlock and open in our industry. So hopefully that helps. Yep.
So are they only doing mainly Apple products, or are they doing Samsung or Wireless and stuff like that?
We service over 33 flagship devices. So obviously we're focused on the major devices. So that includes all iOS, that includes Samsung Galaxy, the Note series, and we're focused on not every single device. We're in the hardware business, and trying to house hardware for every single device doesn't make for a very good business model. But we're going to make sure that we are servicing the devices that matter. And so we do, I believe we're doing a great job servicing a large portion of that market. As we go into new channels and we see more volume of other devices, we're happy to support it, but the volume needs to be there, and I think there's opportunities to find that volume, for sure. Yep.
Your decision only taken by volume, or is also taken by the price point of the device?
It's both. I mean, so I think, you know, at a certain stage, you have to decide if a device is serviceable, right? And there are certain devices that won't necessarily make sense given the model that we have. Maybe retail doesn't make sense either. Maybe you have to do a depot model, or you have to look at the economies of how to service these devices and what those costs are, and then also how much of the cost of the device to replace is, right? Like insurance companies have to decide: am I going to have someone repair this, or am I just going to just buy them a new one, right? And so they have to think about the same stuff. And the market that we live in is, can we repair it at a cost that makes sense? So I think that goes across any way of servicing those devices. Anyone else? That's it? Great. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.